Welcome to the Warband, a World of Warcraft podcast. Major breaking news this week. We're behind, but we need you to know that coming out in patch 11.2, it has been announced that there will be a new lean emote added to the game. Biggest news we've gotten in months. That's right, you can now lean against walls, lean against pillars, lean against your player housing, lean against boxes, lean against other players. You could lean anywhere you want in the game. It is super exciting. This is probably what's going to save World of Warcraft. But my name is Swaglock, and with me today, my favorite host of all time, Chicken. Dude, Chicken, how are you doing?
I'm not going to lie, I kind of forgot about the lean thing. I did see it, and I was like, oh, that's kind of neat, but I was like, eh.
Dude, we're gonna make some, like, epic scenes, bro. Make some epic scenes, right? Like, the bros all leaning against a wall, or leaning in a hallway, or leaning against trees.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of cool. You know, it's kind of cool that they kind of even, you know, have little aspects like that of the game that they're still trying to implement and do stuff like that. Yeah. So, yeah, I'm all for it, man.
Definitely more of, I think, like an RP feel, but it's cool. It's cool that they're adding it.
Wait, what'd you say? It's definitely a what?
More of like a role-playing feel, like RP kind of builds out the RP of the world.
Oh yeah, I mean, but still, like, come on, it's cool.
Mm-hmm.
It's cool.
Yeah, I guess cool. I don't think you even need to be against a wall. I think the emote just works wherever, so you can just lean anywhere. You don't even need a wall.
You don't even need a wall.
Yeah. Why are we even talking about this, dude? There's so much more news that's come out this week.
I don't know. This is, to be honest, this is one of the most awkward openings we've ever had. Maybe
no, there's not. No, it's not. I will forever say the most awkward opening, and I'll say it. I have no problem saying it. When we got Touchpad Warrior to guest on the podcast, and like we were kind of hyped, but also like a little nervous because, you know, this is our first like big guest we had. Probably, I think, still maybe our biggest content creator guest we've had on the podcast. Yeah, and we're a little nervous. And Chicken's balking like a chicken at the very start of the podcast.
Oh yeah, yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah. The OGs remember for sure.
Interesting. Yeah, dude. Well, the OGs will always remember. Oh, dude, I didn't even know they... Oh, my goodness. There's so much. Oh, my gosh. So much stuff that came out, bro. So, this was probably the worst week to make, like a filter podcast of just like, hey, this is what we're going to put in as a... kind of like a pre-recorded, if you will.
Oh, yeah.
I feel like so much stuff came out, even in, like, the week that we didn't record. So
yeah,
that's
right.
Crazy.
And I don't remember if it came out right before the episode released, or I think it came out right after the episode released. So I think we did get our episode out before all the new stuff was announced for 11.2. I do want to point out, I'm probably not going to put a clip in because I'm too lazy to, but who knows, maybe I will. But I do want to remind everybody that in last week's episode that was recorded 2 weeks ago, it was recorded so long ago. It was recorded because we recorded it like a week and a half before the episode released, I think, right? Is that correct? About a week and a half before the episode actually released? Yeah,
it was like a week and a half. It might have been a week. Yeah. I don't know. It doesn't matter.
So I think it was like a week and a half recorded before the episode released. And I was like, yo, let's have a segment where we speculate what's going to be coming in 11.2. And I didn't realize it was going to be such a lore-heavy thing. Okay, so my apologies. That wasn't the most thrilling segment we've ever had on the podcast, but
it was both.
But I will say this. I did say, I was like, yo, I bet you the next place we go to is Koresh. And I had to explain what Koresh was and everything.
Because we were like, what?
And guess what? Yeah, that's right. We're going to Koresh. That's the spot, dude. We're going to the planet, the Void planet that was taken over by the Void that the Ethereals once lived on. I mean, still kind of do live on, but before they were even ethereal beings, right? Before they were Void beings. But with all that said,
that's kind of crazy.
No, there's another conspiracy theory coming up in this next patch that I think we should talk about before we talk about anything else, because I think this one's so juicy and it's gonna be so good. And here's the deal. With this conversation. This one I can't claim too much credit for. Like, The other one was me just being a lore nerd. This one, I saw some mumblings about on the internet, and so I did some digging into it. We talked about it on the Patreon bonus episode this past week, the extra long bonus episode. However, I do want to point out that there's more information, so I want to dig into a little bit more than we did there even. But dude, there's I'm pretty confident. I'm pretty confident.
I know what you're gonna say.
That we're getting the third spec for Demon Hunters finally.
Oh. Well, I don't care as much about that, to be honest.
Oh, what'd you think I was gonna say?
I thought you were gonna say DKs are finally getting a raid buff.
Nah, dude.
Because we kind of touched on that with like some of the DK changes that they made, and we'll talk more about that obviously because that's a huge.
Yeah, I think there's a listener question.
That's definitely a more detailed aspect, but it kind of like changes a lot of our kind of gameplay. So we'll definitely touch on that.
I think there's a listener question coming in, but the Demon Hunter thing, right? So
yeah, that's kind of neat, actually.
There's more, right? Because at the time when we first talked about it, I was like, oh, yeah, there's a raid encounter. I think when we talked about it, I was like, it would be cool, but I don't know if it's actually happening. Because at the time, when we first talked about it, I was like, yeah, there's going to be an encounter with 3 Demon Hunters, right? Yes. And people were speculating. They're like, well, if there's 3 Demon Hunters, then there's only 2 Demon Hunter specs. That doesn't make sense, right? One of them even looks like a Vengeance Demon Hunter, right? The other 2 look maybe like more Havoc Demon Hunters. But there's more. There's more now. So abilities were data mined and finally looked at. So the one Demon Hunter has, like, all their attacks are based upon Vengeance abilities, right? One of the Demon Hunters, all their abilities are based upon Havoc. And the third Demon Hunter has a bunch of abilities that do not currently exist in the game for Demon Hunters.
Interesting.
And there was a like a data mined void themed Demon Hunter metamorphosis model.
Okay.
Now, could it just be a cool look that you can unlock from the raid? Maybe. Maybe. Might be as simple as that. It might just be like, wow, you did the raid. Here's a new look for metamorphosis. It could be. However, it was also data mined that there's a new ability icon for the void-themed metamorphosis look, right? And normally when you unlock like a new look ability, it's not changing the actual spell icon for that ability. It might for Warlock Green Fire. I don't know. I've never unlocked Warlock Green Fire, so maybe it does there. But as far as I know, that's not a thing. So even more speculation, even more reason to believe. And I'm pretty like at this point, dude. Like I'd actually be surprised if they didn't get one. The only question I have is like, the only question I have is like how they would manage the hero talents, right? Would one spec have to lose one of their hero talents that they currently have in order to get a hero talent from the new spec? I don't totally know.
I think they would have to. Yeah,
I think so, right? And if it happens mid-season, would that be really annoying to suddenly lose the hero talent that you are using? Maybe.
Well, I guess it would depend on what the class is, if it's a DPS or a tank.
Yeah. But also, it would be kind of sick, regardless. It would be kind of sick. So I'm all for it. I think it would be awesome. Do I like Demon Hunters? Not currently. They've been everybody's favorite raid tank for too long right now. Or dungeon tank for too long right now. Makes me a little jealous. So, are they my favorite? No. Should I probably play one? Yeah, I probably should start playing one. The void-themed look for Metamorphosis actually looks really sick. And again, we had talked about before, but I think this is a road Blizzard has to go down in some form. Because and I know this is going to be a little bit lore heavy, but I'll probably try to explain. As it currently stands, there's no in-game reason for any other race to have Demon Hunters ever. There's no reason. So the idea behind the Demon Hunters is that these were people whose families were destroyed by demons, by the Burning Legion, and in an effort to get vengeance, they go to Illidan, and Illidan kind of like shoves demons inside of them. Literally just shoves demons inside of them. Most do not survive this process. Most go like crazy or die, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the very few that live, it's excruciatingly painful. It is a miserable experience to go through. The absolute worst. Like the absolute worst. So like it was kind of like a one-time thing. It was kind of like Illidan was doing this, they did it, they moved on. They're not making any more. However, if canonically there was a new let's say Gen 2, like a let's call it Gen 3, because Illidan would be a Gen 1 Demon Hunter, right? Because Illidan's process is very different, how he became how he is, than the other Demon Hunters. So let's say Illidan's a Generation 1. I'm making this all up right now. Illidan's Generation 1 Demon Hunter.
Crazy.
In the same way that Terran Gorfine would be considered a Generation 1 Death Knight, right? You don't know what I'm talking. Gorfine's Grasp is named after him.
Oh, okay. Sure.
Right, but this is going out lore train. Terran Gorfine was the first part of the first group of Death Knights, and how they made them is they literally just shoved orc souls into human bodies. That was it. They just shoved orc souls into dead human corpses. So a little different than the current Death Knights, right? So if we take that same kind of concept, right, we have the Generation 1, which would be Illidan, right? Generation 2 would be the Illidari, I think they're called, or whatever. But anyways, Illidan's created Demon Hunters, right? The ones that we play as currently. And then if there was a Generation 3, like a third generation of Demon Hunters that were maybe using other magic sources, Void could for sure be one. You know, that to me could be a reason. It could be a way for Blizzard to be like, oh yeah, there's Void Demon Hunters now. More races are going through the process to become Demon Hunters for whatever reason, right? And the Void's twisting them. The only thing I will note, though, is when I look at the Void-themed form, and this is the one piece that does make me question some stuff. The Void form it looks voidy in the fact that it's like it's got the purple and blue, like the cool Void look to it. But everything else about it is still very like Fel. In the sense of like it has hooves, it has the horns, right? The claws, so the wings, right? The wings. So even though it's purple, the actual physical attributes of the metamorphosis are still the normal like demon-looking thing. So all of that to say, maybe it simply is nothing more than just a cool coloration as a nod to something that we encountered in the raid for a pre-existing demon hunter that got upgraded, let's say. Kind of like Illidan was almost, quote-unquote, upgraded. Right? Back in Legion, Illidan was almost infused with light and became like a light demon hunter, right? This could be the same thing where it's a pre-existing demon hunter that has now become Void. I know that was a lot. I know Chicken's like, what the heck, dude? We're here to talk about new raids and stuff. But this is all like really fascinating information. So all that to say, I think there's a good shot that we could get it, but there are reasons to believe that maybe this is just a cool little unique experience, and we're not actually getting a whole spec out of it. If this was any other class, we probably wouldn't think about it, but it is the class that only has 2 specs, so it is worth thinking about. On top of that, the last thing worth noting, and I don't know what it means, but the fight that has these 3 demon hunters, that council fight, is marked as optional.
Okay.
And I'm not entirely sure what that means. I don't know if that means like, oh yeah, it's like down a random hallway, so it's pretty easy to skip. I don't know if it means, oh yeah, the only way you can do this fight is if you actually have a demon hunter in your group to like summon them. I don't know.
That'd be kind of crazy.
That'd be kind of crazy, right? I don't know if it means like, yo, this boss is here, but they're actually like insanely difficult. Because it's not required as far as I've seen in what Blizzard has announced. It's not required for Race to World First. It's not required for the leaderboard at all. So the main achievement's not tied to it. So who knows? Like wouldn't it be kind of sick if it was like, yo, Liquid won Race to World First, because Liquid's the best. Screw Echo, right? Liquid wins Race to World First.
Oh my gosh.
Sorry, dude. I gotta root for my people. Liquid wins Race to World First, but they don't actually kill this boss because this boss is just way too hard, and this boss doesn't even go down for like another like 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Right. That could be cool. I don't know. I don't know what that means. Yeah. What if they make this boss super difficult? Right. Like, what if this boss is like super hard, and like when the first group finally kills it, and then like the servers are like, oh, we're shutting down in 30 minutes for an update. And when the servers come back online, it's like, whoa, there's a new spec available, right? And it doesn't unlock until somebody goes out.
Imagine.
I don't know, dude. I don't know.
I don't know if it'll go that far. I could see it having be tied to like some like legendary for demon hunters. I mean, that might be even a long shot, but
yeah,
I don't know if they'll be shutting down the server for.
I
I mean, that'd be an awesome concept. I love the concept, to be honest, but it seems a little crazy.
it could be cool though. Imagine how cool it'd be just for them to be like, whoop, here we go. Like it's launching.
Oh yeah, no, I think it would be awesome. I just don't. I mean, I think you're on the right track, to be honest. I think it seems like that might be tied to the release of a new spec, and that would be awesome.
Yeah.
Because I think, I mean, it was kind of the same way with augmentation, right? There was like, oh, you know, why does Evoker only have two specs? Like, this is kind of weird, and everyone kind of saw like the air quotes leaks for augmentation, right?
Yeah, and by the way, who's the last boss of that? Was that Sarkarith was the last boss of that raid?
Yes.
Sarkarith was very he was very augmentation evoker ish in his abilities. And so
okay.
even his own existence was kind of hinting at something more. So who knows? Would be out of the blue, but again, right? Legion was so long ago, and like, how do they keep demon hunters relevant in the story?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, do they need to, though, is the question?
I think they try to keep every playable class relevant in some capacity to the story, right? And I think currently, as it stands, I think demon hunters, most of them, I think, just went off the planet to go hunt demons around space.
I mean, makes sense.
And so
they're demon hunters.
I think Blizzard's kind of like, okay, we need a reason for them to like still be around doing things, be involved, right? So that to me sounds like it's probably partly for story, probably partly for gameplay. It would be cool though. It would be cool. I have no problem. But there's a lot of other news that's come out this week, so we don't have to live on that conversation forever. We will come back to it because there's a listener question. I think that relates to it, if I recall correctly.
I think you just kind of answered the. Well, no, we didn't answer the listener question.
No.
I'm sorry, we didn't. But anyways, yeah, I mean, I think we just like kind of jumped right into the content. But like, you know, what have you played much this week?
Yeah, dude. So I've been on a decent bit. I was reached out to by our raid leader who asked me to play healer next season. Nothing bad. He wanted to tank again, and he was nervous because he was previously healing, and he was just nervous about a shortage of healers because we weren't sure how it was going to look, or people's availability or consistency. So he asked if I could
shortage of healers, man.
So asked if I could just swap with him for next season. So I've been warming up my healer this season, this week, which has been really good. The one thing I will say, and hear me out. If you're listening to the podcast and you disagree with me, totally fine. Totally get it. I will say this, though. Healing has been so much more relaxing than tanking.
Yeah, I could probably see that.
Dude, like so much more relaxing. Like not even comparable. Now, granted, my tank is running like 12s right now. I haven't really gotten back into them yet. I've been too nervous to warm back up to 12s. I know I need to. Maybe that's next week's problem. I want to get done before the season's over. But I've been really enjoying my healer, running 10s and 11s right now. Push on that. But I'm also only like 655 eye level or something. 657 now, maybe.
That's not bad.
No, right? And I'm pushing like 10s, 11s, and I'm feeling like I'm definitely like, okay, I have a lack of healing. Healing is such an interesting thing, though, because it's just like, it really depends on your group comp, but I've enjoyed it. I've really enjoyed it. It's been a lot of fun. And so I've been doing a lot of that this week. That's kind of been my main thing, is getting that healer up and going, ready for next season's raid. I do need to do the belt thing for delves. I don't know why I haven't done it.
The belt thing.
I think because I was so excited. Again, I've been away, and I really haven't been able to play in the last 3 weeks. In the last 3 weeks, I didn't really have any time to play WoW, just wedding stuff. Obviously, major life change happening there. Got married, went on a honeymoon for a week, so I just didn't have quite the time to game. And so now that I'm back, like, if I'm real with you, the last thing I want to do right now is go run a bunch of delves to like unlock a belt. And so I will do it. I'm
That's fair.
not gonna do it. I'm not gonna do it. But I really,
Don't
dude,
blame
I really just want to get back into dungeons. I was like, I'm gonna go do some dungeons. I'm not doing like high ones, so not having the belt isn't gonna kill me. I'll go back and
No.
farm that content when I have a
I
second.
know, a little bit. Yeah, the belt. Well, I mean, we'll talk about the belt in a little bit. It's not like anything crazy. The belt's like, it's the belt, right? It's very similar to the ring. It's kind of cool. It's kind of not that cool. The overcharged delves are kind of cool though, to be honest. I think it adds just like another aspect into the delves that make it, a tad bit harder.
What's different
insane.
about them?
There's basically just like extra mobs that aren't necessarily like, what's the word I'm looking for? They're not necessarily like mobs that do like a ton of damage. They're basically mobs that are just there to like annoy you.
Oh, interesting.
Like they like stun you and like, put you, root you and like do things like that. So it's kind of neat that they have like that little aspect in it that kind of makes delves just like a little bit more challenging. I wouldn't say it's like, oh my goodness, they're so much harder. It's like, oh, they're kind of a little more interesting. Like you kind of got to be a little more strategic. You can't just like pull everything and just steamroll to the end.
Yeah.
It's neat, but it's not like, oh my goodness, this is like totally different. But
Absolutely.
yeah, I've been more into the time walking stuff, so that's pretty neat. Like doing the time walking again. The BFA time walking was kind of neat. You got to get your turbulent time walking so you can get the mount.
Oh, how do you get the mount, by the way? Like, what's the trick?
Oh, okay. So this is what you have to do.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to go in and you have to do 4 time walking on like one character.
Okay.
And then you get like these stacks of, I think it's something time waves. You get stacks of something time waves.
Okay.
I don't remember what they're called. They're not called something time waves. They're called blank time waves. And then you do like a couple of them and you get 4 of these stacks, and then you get what's called mastery of the time waves, and it gives you like increased experience and that kind of deal. And then once you get that, it like ticks it, and you have to get that 5 times to get the mount.
Okay, so that's you have to do it for 5 weeks, basically, or just.
So you either do it for 5 weeks, you do it for 5 characters. So what I've read is if you do the 4 dungeons on one character, then you only have to do 1 dungeon a week after that.
Oh.
That's what I read. I don't know if it's true.
Theoretically, I could
Knowledge
knock
of
it
the
out.
time
Theoretically,
waves.
I could just knock it out in a week if I wanted to.
Yeah, so theoretically, you could just go in on 5 different characters and get it all done.
Maybe I'll do that.
Yeah, so knowledge of the time waves is what it is. You got to get knowledge of the time waves 4 times to get mastery of the time waves, and you got to get mastery of the time waves 5 times to get them out.
It's not too bad.
So, yeah, I mean, you could just go in on 4 different alts or 5 different alts and do 20 dungeons and then have it.
That's not too bad. I could slam 20 time walking.
So, yeah, I mean, 20 is
Get a good snack.
a bit
Get
high.
a good snack. Just sit and go. Spend my night.
But yeah, so if you weren't aware, that's what you got to do to get them out. But really, I mean, the delves and this mount, the turbulent time waves thing, is literally like the only like 0.7 stuff that I've done, and I'm thinking it's like the only 0.7 stuff that there really is to do.
Yeah. But
yeah.
Did you do the little quest line? Was that part of 0.7?
Oh no, I've not done the storyline that'll tie into 0.2. I'm assuming.
No, not at all.
No.
Nope. Doesn't tie into 0.2 one bit. It's okay. It's good.
Oh, it doesn't.
No. There's like a little audiobook series. It's a very short audiobook series on YouTube. Like that sets this up. So like literally, if you don't even listen to this audiobook series, you're just like, what's going on here in Arathi? Why are they all acting weird and racist? So yeah.
What?
Yeah. So there's like an audiobook series. I remember I listened to it while cleaning or something one day. Like, I don't know, like a year ago. I think it was like a year ago. So apparently now it's relevant. It's relevant now. Yeah. So that's a whole thing.
Huh.
Mm-hmm.
That makes no sense.
That's okay. Basically, you go to Arathi Highlands, and there's like a Lion City and a Horde City, or like whatever, and they're kind of at war with each other ish, but they're trying to trust each other, but there's like a secret group that's like causing strife and issues, and so that's what's going on. Yeah. It's like racism is like the story.
Oh my gosh! Stop saying that. It's not racism. My gosh.
No,
get canceled.
No, that's what it is. It's literally like some humans are like, "Yo, every other race sucks. Humans only."
Okay, well, that
What
might be fair
word?
then.
What word would you use to describe that then, huh?
Okay, I don't. Okay, fair enough.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Anyways, yeah. So that's
this guy.
That's what's going on there. I was playing
This
a Draenei. Dude, it was
guy.
funny because I'm like playing a Draenei, right? And so I'm like running around my shaman. And even being an Alliance character, but just a different race than a human, they're still trash talking me.
Oh my gosh.
But anyways, that's that. Did you look at the raid stuff? New raid?
The new raid stuff. I haven't done any. I haven't really. Okay, so I have looked at a fair amount of 11.2 stuff, but there is one thing from 0.7 that we are missing that I want to touch on before we dive into...
Dude, why are we talking about 0.7 stuff? It's 0.2 time.
Dude, this is like the biggest thing. Dude, this is almost like the most controversial WoW thing that's happened in like weeks outside of the 0.2 stuff.
Okay.
That came in 0.7.
Oh, yeah. I remember. You wanted me to talk about this. That's right.
Yeah, well, I wanted you to at least try it.
Yeah, I did for you, buddy. I did for you.
Well, yeah. I wanted the full swag experience on the one button rotation.
Yeah. So here's my thought on one button rotation. Because I did try it out. Well, what did you think? Before I say what I think, what did you think?
I mean, it's kind of boring, to be honest.
Yeah.
Like, to me, it's just not my style of gameplay. You know, it's kind of boring. You know, there is two things that I'll note. One, the suggestion, they're like the suggested rotation, I think, not the one button, like the assistant or whatever. It does line up with the one button. So I turned both of them on just to see if they kind of did the same thing.
Yeah.
So they do the same thing. On another note, it is weird, but the assistant does not suggest the same thing that what's it called does.
Achille?
Yeah, it does not suggest the same thing, because I did it on my Shadow Priest, and I'm not too familiar with my Shadow Priest. So I have Achille on to try to, learn a little more about what a rotation looks like. And it was not suggesting the same thing. So I'm going to dig in a little more into that just to see, like, okay, what does make sense to use
which one's
in
better?
certain, so maybe the in-game assistant is better. I don't know. TBD.
Yeah, right. And will they update it every season, or is it just going to get progressively worse? Right? Like, is it like?
Yeah, that's
because
fair.
Achilles always getting updated, right? Is this going to stay?
Yeah, Achilles gets updated all the time.
Not going to stay updated. That's a good question. So,
anyways, that's my thoughts. It's kind of boring.
Yeah. So here are my thoughts. A couple things. One, if you have carpal tunnel and you really struggle to play WoW because your hands hurt, I don't know if this is going to help. I think this might be worse.
Really?
I think this might be worse, man. I mean, I don't know. Maybe you just bind it to a button on your mouse, so it.
That's what I was gonna say.
Right?
Just bind it to your scroll wheel or something.
That's true. Oh, that's true. Yeah. I just found, like, dude, my hand was hurting just smacking the same key over and over and over and over again. Like my hand was getting sore. I'm like, it wasn't just boring. It was like almost painful, like almost borderline painful after a while. With that said, though, a couple other notes I have. I think it's fine in dungeons. It's not great, but again, though, I think that's where it needs to live, right? It needs to live in that, like, it's not great, but it'll do, right? It needs to live there, right? So that the person who needs it benefits from it, but I don't think any player should ever be incentivized to use it just because they're learning, right?
Just because. Oh yeah, no, that's a good point.
And
Yeah.
so what has me nervous right now, though, is not for every class, because it kind of depends on the spec. Some specs really benefit off of it. Some don't benefit off of it. But it's looking too... Like, last time I looked at numbers, I didn't try it in Raid. But when I looked at numbers for Raid, it looks like it's doing too good.
Oh, you think?
Yeah, like to the point where, like, next season, we could at Raid have to be like, yo, we need half our Raid team to switch to one button.
No way.
And that's my concern. Now, obviously, there's like, well, he has a longer global cooldown. But part of my question, too, though, is like, how many players in WoW actually use the optimal rotation?
I don't know. Probably not that many.
Right? Because, again, and to give credit where credit's due, hitting your optimal, like, hitting your best possible rotation is not easy to remember. There's a lot of ifs. There's a lot of if this, then this type of things going on, right? And procs and all sorts of stuff happening. And I will say, even with a GCD, giving somebody the perfect optimal rotation, I don't know if that's the win, right? I don't know if that's the win. It needs to feel like, hey, this is good enough to keep up. But the problem, again, though, is even like a 30% GCD penalty, even a 30% GCD penalty doesn't quite account for like how much more damage you'll do with an optimal rotation, like with the perfect rotation. With that said,
Yeah,
it's not
that's
obviously
true.
using like your big major cooldowns and stuff, so it's not using like your defensives 40 and things like that. But again, though, that's just like my initial first impression thoughts of like it's too strong in Raid right now, which I'm really glad they didn't release at the start of a Raid tier, because I'm hoping they're looking at this data.
Goodness,
I'm hoping they're looking at this data right now. I don't think, and again, at some point, it's got to outperform people, right? There's got to be a line. I don't think the line for outperforming players, though, is in heroic content, heroic raid content, right? If it was like, oh yeah, one button rotation like outperforms a third of the bottom third of normal dungeon players or normal raiders, I'd be like, okay, that's fine,
Yeah.
that's fine. But once it's like, oh yeah, it's outperforming like the 50% mark of heroic raid, I'm like, ooh, that feels bad.
Yeah, like, whoa.
Yeah, right. Like, imagine somebody playing
That
the
feels
game.
bad.
Imagine somebody playing the game who's like genuinely trying to really learn their class. And I know I listen to these pro player podcasters, and I love them. I love these podcasts. I'll guest on it if you want me to, But anyways,
Oh my gosh. That's true. You will.
I do love these podcasts, but again, perspectives are different, right? And so for them, their perspective is like, like if you're really not like, if you're putting any effort into try, you'll like do better than the one button. But I don't know if that's true as it currently stands in rating, because I know plenty of players who really do put a lot of effort in, but maybe this just isn't the way their brain operates the best, right? And so it's hard to remember all those rotations and get it just right. And for there to be a tool like one button rotation that like easily surpasses somebody putting a good bit of effort in, doesn't feel great, right? Like then what? Should that person quit the game? Should they switch to the one button rotation and just not have fun anymore? Right? Like what is for? Because I fully believe one button is not supposed to be a handicap in the sense of like, oh, you're not good here, go use the one button. I firmly believe the one button rotation is supposed to be an accessibility feature for people who like really need to use it and are glad to have it. I don't think that's I don't think that's half the WoW player base, though.
No, I don't think it is either.
Yeah, and that's what scares me when I think about like the 50% mark in heroic. That's what scares me. I think it's easy to talk
that's
to.
a good point.
I think it's easy to talk to a lot of WoW content creators who are playing at higher levels, and not for them to miss that perspective. I think you and I encounter that player type way more. I love that player type, man. WoW can't live. WoW can't live with like without the everyday player, right? Like without the
everyday Joes, man.
Everyday Joes, dude. Yeah.
Like, come on, we need those everyday Joes to be playing this game, or else, I mean, they're the ones that kind of make the game, right?
Yeah.
In a way,
that's my thought. That's my thought on the one button, though.
Yeah, I mean that's That's a good, like, I would have never, I would never have, like, just pulled that out, to be honest. I just don't think about it in that aspect. But it's a good point. Well, one, because I haven't played with really anyone that makes sense. Like, I've just been running it in, like, what's it called? Time walking. Like I said, I'm just kind of like leveling up a Shadow Priest that I've never played before, and it's kind of good for that because, you know, again, I've never played Shadow Priest, or at least I don't have a lot of experience playing Shadow Priest.
Yeah.
It's just kind of a class that I want to level up and maybe mess with eventually. And it works well in aspects like those, but I'm kind of curious. I kind of want to try it on like my DK and like a dungeon and see really like, hey, is this like, I don't want to say outperforming me without it, but like, where does it stand? Like if I'm running like a 10 and doing like clearly good DPS, that kind of, I don't know if that worries me as a competitive player or if that worries me just as like a WoW enthusiast, if you will. Like, does that worry me that, hey, WoW is putting a lot of effort into this and maybe that's not like a great thing? Or does that worry me as like, hey, I kind of suck at this game?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, and that's like, I think the question, right? How do you make something that's a good accessibility feature for players that need it and can benefit from it? But most, I'm gonna say most, and by most I mean like 80%, right? Maybe 90%. Yeah, let's say 90. I'm gonna put a high number there. But 90% of WoW players aren't feeling like they're obligated now to use that tool, right? I will say there's definitely I think there's definitely a group of WoW players who aren't performing nearly as well as they think they are. That with a little bit of help and the right tools would actually do exceptionally well. And so obviously that type of player, I think, will get outperformed by the one button. Hopefully they, rather than being like, oh, I guess I got to use the one button now, hopefully that will push them to maybe learn their class a little bit more. But again, for the majority, right, 90% of WoW players, they like, I don't know, feeling like you have to go use this. Right, what I want is to be talking to somebody and like, I want to forget that the one button rotation exists. I want to be at the point where I just don't, obviously it's news right now, but I want to be at the point where like I literally forget it exists. And then like I'm raiding with some dude in our guild and they're like, yeah, man, I've just got this like real bad issue. Ever since such and such happened, you know, like my memory loss is terrible or something. So I use the one button rotation so I can, or their focus, right? My focus is real bad because I had a concussion or whatever. So I use the one button rotation so I can focus on like handling mechanics and still play with my friends. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
I'd be like, oh, that's awesome. I'm glad that works. Like, I'm glad that works for you and like helps you continue to play the game, run some low keys, join us for raid nights occasionally, right? Like, I'd be thrilled. I'd be like, that's a win.
That's awesome.
That is an absolute win.
That's what we want you to do, right?
Yeah. But if I'm like talking to somebody in VC and they're just like, dude, I don't know what I'm doing, man. I suck at the game. Like, I literally do more damage with the one button rotation. That to me would make me so angry. If I have that conversation with somebody, that would make me so angry because like, dude, like that person was just made to feel like crap and told it would be better for you to just literally spam one button than to like play this game.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a fine line, my friend, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. But I don't want to talk about 11.1.7 stuff anymore, dude. 11.2 is here. I want to talk about the cool things now. I want to talk about the fun things.
This just depresses me, dude.
Why?
What do you mean, why, bro?
Dude, you were over talking about. You were excited to talk about one button rotations, man. This is content.
Yeah,
we're talking about. You're trying to talk about accessibility features. Nah, dude. This is content.
Dude,
we're talking about content now.
Content that's gonna change the way I play the game forever.
That is true. That is true.
Dude, why, Blizzard? Why?
Technically, I think this is a listener. This is a listener question, so you gotta be careful. You gotta be careful where you're going.
What do you mean
here.
this is a listener question?
Yeah, dude, we got this. I think what you're about to talk about, we got as a listener question. It was a little while back.
We
Let me
did?
see. Yeah, let me scroll up a little bit. We did. Because I remember I commented it, and I was like, "Wait, what are you talking about?" And then I had to like go back and like look it up.
Well, I mean, we can talk. We got a fair amount of banger questions that we could easily probably make like a whole podcast
Boom,
about. To be honest,
I found the question. We got a lot of great questions this week, and we're gonna hit them all because they're all good.
But before that, we'll talk about the other parts of point 2. So really, I think the biggest thing, you called the location, which is kind of cool. You talked a little bit about the raid. I mean, I saw the sprites and stuff like that of like the images and that kind of stuff. Not doing raid has really made me not really care about raid that much. So I'm just like, cool. I'm not doing raids, so I don't really care. But yeah, what are your initial thoughts on the actual raid?
Yeah, dude, I think the actual raid looks cool. We're fighting Dimensius at the end, which has been kind of a long build-up in WoW. And kind of confusing to me, because Dimensius is, like, again, this long fabled Void Lord. Like, they data mined, like, his model and stuff from the game. And it's freaking huge, dude. It's massive.
Yeah.
Like, I'm looking at a picture of his model overlapped over Stormwind, and he's, like, dwarfing Stormwind.
Yeah.
Right? Freaking
I did see that one, yes.
Freaking giant, right? What makes me curious, though, is that Dimensius is, like... Again, this character we've seen for a long time. Now, obviously, we just killed... I say we've seen, but we haven't seen him. We've just heard of him, right? We just killed Gallywix, who's also, like, a pretty big deal. But Gallywix has actually been in the game and kind of a pain in our butts since Cataclysm. So he's had his time. So, like, it makes sense, right? How long has Gallywix been here? Like 13 years or something? Right? Like, it makes sense that we finally had the chance to kill him. Dimensius, though, has only ever been, like, rumored and, like, whispered about. And, like, this creature somewhere mysteriously in the void, right? That could come one day, this Void Lord creature. I don't think we're killing Dimensius in the raid.
I think we're gonna
push him back. I think we're gonna maybe weaken him for a little bit. We're gonna do something. I don't think we're killing him unless like Xalatath betrays us or something and she like absorbs him. That's the I should let you know. It's some data mining stuff. By the way, spoilers everywhere. I don't care. You listen to a WoW podcast. You're not trying to hide from spoilers.
Yeah, that's fair.
But some data mining shows us that Xalatath is probably going to help us out in the raid. Is going to ally with us in the raid at least, right? So maybe Xalatath tries to absorb Dimensius and takes his powers and kills us all. That's a possibility. But I don't know. I feel like I'd be disappointed if we killed Dimensius. But again, who knows? And maybe Blizzard's trying to get rid of all their big bads right now, so that by the time the last Titan is over, they can just be like, all right, clean slate. We're starting new villains. We're starting new story. I don't know. So maybe
it's possible.
Clear it all.
It's also like a huge build up to the next expansion. So,
yes. Yep. So
yeah, I feel like they kind of got to do that based on the fact that like the expansions are kind of built off of each other. They kind of basically have to like, hey, how can we hype up the next expansion in a cool way? And it's like, hey, let's just make this happen. And
what do you think about the hub city? Sorry, I'm all over the place. I want to hear your opinion on this. What do you think about the hub city for next season?
It's kind of interesting. I'm this expansion has really focused a lot on Shadowlands. And some people in our Discord would probably think that we don't like Shadowlands.
Didn't we just? I swear we glazed Shadowlands on like an episode or two ago, right? Like we literally went where like Shadowlands was like low key kind of a great expansion.
Yeah, I mean, I don't ever really have anything bad to say about Shadowlands, but I only played it for like one real season because the back half was I think a lot better than the start. I think Shadowlands started really rough and that killed it for a lot of people. Yeah, I mean that makes sense. But I mean there's a lot of Shadowlands, and now we're going back to Tazavesh. I mean, I've always liked Tazavesh. It was always my favorite dungeon from Shadowlands.
Oh, I know. That's why I asked. That's why I asked what you thought of the hub city.
Always. It's neat. I'm interested to see how they'll make it, tie into the storyline with the War Within.
Well, because we saw the brokers, right? We saw the brokers in Shadowlands, and they were actually interesting. Like, they were actually like really interesting people. They were very, very similar to the Ethereals in many ways that we're going to go fight now. But then like Shadowlands was over, and we never got any sort of answers about these people. Which is like, oh, they were here, now you're gone, right? And so that to me was kind of like, this is a little sus. This is a little sus, but I think going back to Tazavesh as our hub city is going to be a really cool experience. I do wonder what the tie between the brokers and the ethereal are. That's going to be really interesting. We had that one ethereal princess, I think, right?
Yes, in the raid.
In that's the first raid this season, this expansion.
Yeah, and that's supposed to be the the Delves boss, if you will.
Oh, how interesting!
Yeah, I don't know if you saw that. That's gonna be like the Delves boss.
That's pretty sick.
The boss in Delves. So yeah, that's kind of neat. I was like, it's neat. I always liked that fight in the raid. I always thought that was a cool fight, and I always thought like the character design of that boss was pretty cool. So I was like, that's kind of cool to see her get a little bit of love.
Yeah, it was a very cool fight. But again, very similar to another fight we had in Shadowlands with a broker, right? Actually, I think we had two fights with that broker.
Right. Yeah, with Zymox.
Zymox. Yeah. So, or was it Kaiveza?
No, it was Zymox.
Okay, it was Zymox.
We fought Zymox twice.
Yes. All that to say, though, like, there's a lot of similarity there, and so I'm excited to learn why they're so similar. I think we're going to learn, right? I really suspect we're going to learn why the brokers and the ethereals are so similar in so many ways. Maybe we won't. Maybe we'll never find out. Maybe it just happens to be conveniently close to Koresh or something. But whatever the story is, it will be cool. I'm excited. I'm excited for a little bit of story there. Dude, I will say that, and I know it sounds like I'm bouncing all over the place. There's just so many things that are worth talking about, exciting, and we got some good questions, so I got to make sure we hit all our topics. Dude, this might be my favorite dungeon pool I've ever seen for M+.
I mean,
What do you mean?
Okay. Hold on. First of all, Halls. I don't know. Halls is okay.
Dude, Halls
I'm not
was I loved Halls.
Yeah, well,
Halls was a good one.
No, I didn't really care for Halls. Halls was okay. I didn't love it.
Oh, okay.
It definitely wasn't like the worst dungeon. I don't think it was the best dungeon. I would have rather seen like the other side, to be honest.
I don't know what they're gonna do with the other side, because I think I like the other side gameplay and thematically. I think it's long, and because it's so long,
it is.
I think a lot of people
long,
hate it.
at least.
No, I think it is. I think it like actually time wise is long. I think I think it's close to 40.
Oh, I don't remember that, to be honest.
I'd have to look.
I just don't remember it.
Yeah, it might have been like 35-minute timer or something.
I mean, you're probably right.
Yeah.
I just don't ever remember.
And so a lot of people just like it. I love the other side. I want to see it come back. But dude, I feel like Halls is that like good, simple, like pretty straightforward, but still open layout, right? It's one of the, again, it's an open layout kind of dungeon, which we haven't been getting too many of. We'll have a couple this season though, won't we? Yeah. And the only one I'm not hyped for is like probably Priory. Don't care about Priory.
Oh, dude, Priory is garbage.
Maybe they'll rework it though. Maybe they'll rework it.
I'm pretty sure it was only picked for like the trinket.
Yeah, I don't know who the heck was voting for Priory. Like it was just for gear, which is dumb. That's so dumb.
Dude, every dungeon outside of maybe Dawnbreaker was for gear. Literally every dungeon.
Dude, I like Dawnbreaker's vibes, dude. Dawnbreaker's vibes.
Dude, Dawnbreaker is probably like the best dungeon from the War Within.
I know a lot of people hate Dawnbreaker. I know so many people hate Dawnbreaker. I love it. Dawnbreaker is probably my favorite. Probably my favorite War Within dungeon. It's just so
I feel
cool.
like it's not that bad of a dungeon, dude. It's a pretty good dungeon.
It's a good dungeon. The bosses are really cool. It's got cool bosses. The flying in it feels way better than flying did in Onaran Plains, right? Onaran Plains flying felt tedious. Like it actually felt like a time waster.
It felt terrible.
right? But in Dawnbreaker, you're kind of just doing like little hops here and there, right? You're really just zooming as fast as you can, and you're into the next thing, and it feels really good. The open world kind of feels good though with the flying in the town. Yeah, I like Dawnbreaker a lot. The new Echo Dome, that looks really cool. I like the theming. It definitely reminds me of, you probably won't remember this, but in Burning Crusade, if you go all the way north in Outlands, there's a bunch of these domes set up that are kind of in this void destroyed area, or mana destroyed area or whatever. And they're kind of like rehabilitating the land, growing forests. Animals are living there. They're trying to recreate it, and it looks like it's the same technology from that, and that's what the Ethereals are doing here, because they were doing it on Outlands too. So I'm excited to have a dungeon that's actually like built in one of those. I remember playing in Burning Crusade and being like, this would be so cool to like have like this actually be more content than just some random questing. Yeah. So I'm excited for that. I've skirted around the real conversation here. I've kind of avoided it, but I can't avoid it any longer. Dude, I'm so hyped for both Tazavesh's being back. I love Tazavesh.
Dude, those are such good dungeons.
Oh, they're so freaking good.
I'm really I kind of gave you some crap, but I think you're probably pretty accurate. This should be, on paper, a really good season in terms of M+.
Yeah,
like it should be on paper,
right? Yeah.
So,
because the problem is, if they do it wrong, Tazavesh quickly goes from being like our favorite dungeons to like our worst, like the worst dungeons ever.
That is probably pretty accurate,
right? Because it all depends on how they tune it, how they build it, right? Like, we could go into next season, and like this time next season, you and I are podcast recording, getting ready for midnight to come out, and we're just reflecting on the dungeon pool, and we're just like, yeah, dude, Priory was probably the best dungeon this season. It was just so good, man. But Tazavesh was the worst. I hate Tazavesh, right? It all just depends on how they tune it. It all depends on how things behave, what mechanics you have to deal with, what the changes they make. Tazavesh definitely has some hard points, right? The Murlocs with their fish sticks, those fish sticks are a pain in the butt.
Oh yeah, they are kind of rough.
And we don't have the stops don't interrupt anymore like they used to.
Oh yeah, that's true.
So that's a bigger deal. I don't know what the plan is for weak auras next season. It might be there, it might not be there. I did hear though that they're redoing the mechanic on the first boss in Gambit, where you have to go up to the console and get the colors and take the orbs to the right color.
Yeah.
So the change that they're making is that the map or whatever in M+, the map will always like show above the machine. You don't have to go over and click it to find it. I'm guessing that's because they knew the only way people were doing it before was literally with a weak aura, right? Like one dude would have the weak aura, run over and do it. So that's my thought. That's my thought, at least.
Yeah, I kind of forgot about that fight, to be honest.
No, you're all good.
That's kind of interesting.
The other stuff too, right? That's interesting, right? If you look, the second boss, right, was kind of, honestly, the last two bosses were both kind of a pain. I could see them tweaking the pirate dragon fight, and I can for sure see them tweaking the last boss of Gambit, with like all the orbs and everything going up. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Also, I think you saw, but they're bringing back Tazavesh as a mega dungeon as well next season. So hard mode mega dungeon Tazavesh will be a thing.
Interesting.
But they did say for hard mode Mega Dungeon Tazavesh, the first boss of Gambit will require you to still go over to the console and read it out. And I think they're doing it that way. I heard some people talk about it. I think it was on the bench. I heard them talk about it, and they're like, "Oh, at what difficulty do they think blah 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 is necessary?" Right? And I don't think it's a difficulty thing. I think it's a time thing, right? So ultimately, I think the answer is they decided that because M+ is a timed-based activity, having a mechanic where you need to go read a console and then communicate to your team isn't a good M+ experience. but it's perfectly fine for a mega dungeon where you're free to like do it a couple times until your group gets it just right.
Yeah.
There's real no true penalty for like wiping or something.
So they're bringing back the hard mode?
Yep.
No, that's kind of dumb.
Yeah, it'd be cool. I mean, it'll just be the mega dungeon. So
yeah. Well, that's fair. I guess that's fair. Are they bringing back 100% drop chance?
I don't know. For the glider,
amount?
Maybe it'll be a different one.
Oh, dude, if it is, that'd be kind of dope. Because I know, like, historically, if you go do it after the season, it's not 100% drop chance.
Yeah. Do you have it?
Yeah, I do.
I have it too. Although, unrelated, off topic, but I'll mention. Did you see what they're doing in July?
No, I don't think I did.
So, mount drops like pre.
Gonna tick me off.
Maybe not. I think it's cool. I think it's a really generous thing that Blizzard's doing. For the month of July, if you go into like old legacy content, mounts will drop, I think, at a 10 times higher rate.
Really?
Yep.
What does that mean, though, is the question.
It means whatever the drop rate percentage of that mount is, it's multiplied by 10. It's 10 times higher. So, like, for example, if I look up the drop rate of Invincible, right? Invincible has a mere 1% chance of dropping from the Lich. It's got to be lower than 1%. I guess it is, apparently. According to WoW, has about 1%. Has a 1% drop rate. I think it's lower than that, maybe. Whatever. Right? So then that would go up to 10% drop rate chance. I think it's cool, right? Like, why not? Like, it's not farming like, it's not like we're talking about things that people had to like do a challenge for or like go through a thing for, right? This is literally like, hey, these are amounts that are 24/7 all year long. They're farmable just for this 1 month. We're just gonna make it a little easier to farm them in the exact same way that they would go, hey, look, for this month we're doing time running. If you want to level up, you can level up faster, right?
Sure. Oh, dude, it'll take someone off, though, you know, well.
Probably. Who cares? To me, it's the same thing, right? It's the same thing as like, oh, hey, look, bonus XP for this month. It's like, okay, hey, bonus drop chance of mounts for this month, right? I think, I think that's fine.
Yeah, the only reason I asked is because I know that for Mechagon, the mega dungeon for Mechagon, the drop chance is like based on your party, but I think it's like a 20% drop chance. So like if you have like 5 party members in the dungeon, like one person is going to get it. But does that mean everyone would just get it? Because 10 times 20 is,
I don't know,
200.
That I actually don't know. I don't know.
Because now I'm like, bro, I want to get a group together and go get that mount, because that's a pretty sick mount from Mechagon hard mode. I actually don't know exactly how the I'm looking up right now, like how it works for everything. I don't know if it's just that for some things. Drop rate. Let's see what this says. So the event will run from July 1st to the end of July 29th. All pre-Dragonflight Legacy mounts from Legacy Dungeons and Raids. While not confirmed, we can assume this is the list of mounts affected or close to it. This list is not curated and not final. We'll have I think it's increased by 10 times, I think. That's what it says. Okay.
Yeah. Drop rates increased by 10 times. And in one case, it's 25 times. So I don't know what mount it is. They're not saying what mount, but apparently one mount has a 25 times higher drop rate. I don't know what that would be.
I mean, people will figure it out.
Yeah, it's probably Invincible. I hate to say it. It's going to be Invincible.
Yeah, probably.
Which that's probably the only one I'd be like, that's dumb. But whatever.
That's
dude,
dumb.
If you want Invincible, this will be the month to get him. This will be the month to get them.
Oh yeah, it would be. I mean, I might go grind some like older.
Oh, for sure, dude. For sure. I gotta remind the guild leaders. I gotta remind our guild leaders to start planning some. We'll probably do a bunch. We'll probably do like extra legacy content runs all month long.
Yeah, now I kind of want to go see like if this Mechagon
Dude, you
thing,
can get the jailer mount now.
like the mythic one.
Yeah.
Oh, that'd be kind of neat.
Mm-hmm. That would
Mythic
be pretty
jailer
sick.
mount.
That'd be pretty sick. All right.
That would be kind of sick.
There's
a
lot.
How'd you find that out? Come on.
There's a lot happening. Oh, they said anything pre-Dragonflight, right? So that'd be pre-Dragonflight.
Yeah.
All right. With that
I
said,
just didn't see that. That's
with
why I
that
was asking.
said,
Go ahead.
we've talked about so much. Let's get into our listener questions because I know we're running out of recording time for tonight. We're gonna try and wrap up about 20 minutes. So let's get into some of these listener questions. We got some good ones. We've actually avoided conversations and topics today because some of these questions were hitting those topics, and we don't want to steal your thunder in that moment. So, first question coming in from Carb. What do you think? And this is the big one. What do you think about the removal of Abomination Limb? I missed a week if you already talked about it. We did not talk about it. We also missed a week. Now, we had an episode come out, but we actually weren't recording that week. We recorded it early while we were both away. Chicken, you want to give your thoughts first?
I mean, I think it's a load of garbage, but I mean, I don't know what else to say other than like I'm a little disappointed. At first, I thought it was just for Unholy because I was like, I guess that kind of makes sense. Like, it is kind of like generally like really good for tanking. It's not like it's like OP for Unholy. I think it definitely adds a little bit of utility for the M+ scene.
Mm-hmm.
But I was like, like it's not the end of the world. Like Unholy will probably not be meta next season anyways, so like what matters if they take a little bit of chip off the shoulder. But then I realized it was for every DK class, and I was like, oh, that's kind of bad. I think it's such a good utility for blood in terms of just overall tanking.
Yeah.
And I'm just upset about it. Like everyone's like, oh, like it needs to be reverted back. Like it's going to be reverted back. And I'm like, is it? Like,
dude, I think it's final, man. I don't think they're going to revert it back. I think people are making an uproar. I don't think they're going to revert it back. If they do revert it back, we might see it become a blood only thing. But if that happens, then that only widens the gap of like, why would you bring any DK but a blood DK to raid, right?
To raid, yeah.
Right, because Blizzard's always like, oh, well, you know, their raid buff is grippy hands, right? But then all of a sudden, okay, great, you can death grip, but DKs have a shorter cooldown, or blood DK has a shorter cooldown on death grip. Plus, they have Orpheum's Grasp, right? Plus, they'll probably also spec into A-Bomb Limb for that fight if you really need it. So, you have all of it on one guy, which is not a Unholy or a Frost. And so, I think it would make that problem even worse if it was exclusively a blood thing. But I do agree. It's one of those things where you're like, okay, they could get rid of it. Theoretically, you could get rid of it for Frost and Unholy, and you're fine. Like, they will just buff some other things, make other things feel good. It gets rid of button bloat on your keyboard. It won't feel as fun, be able to grip everything in, but you're not the tank, so you really don't have to be worrying about too much. I know it's kind of Giga Chad in M+, or not M+, in PvP. I think the reason they gave for removing it is kind of stupid, if I'm being honest. Right? Like, I don't know. To me, it's like, oh, well, the raid buff for DK is gripping things. And I'm like, their raid buff is literally you making sure every fight has to have something to be gripped. That's stupid.
Yeah,
like that's literally dumb, right? Like that's literally like you're just saying, oh, we're designing ourselves into a corner where we have to design fights that require grip every raid, just so Death Knight has a value. Which, by the way, I'm not really convinced there's a lot that needed grip this raid tier. I guess you would say like maybe on Mythic it did, but nothing on Heroic. Nothing on Heroic needed grip.
No, not really. No.
Nothing. Right. So I think what happened was you're getting rid of a utility that is mildly, in my opinion, mildly beneficial in raid, and because you think it's going to make raid better, but in exchange you're also getting rid of an ability that is wickedly helpful for DK tanking dungeons. And that's what makes me nervous. Like, Slapping Hands was so good. So freaking good for dungeons. And that's, again, I look at my DK, right, and I think about how I tank. I'm already having a hard time. DK is not a great dungeon tank right now. It's just not. It's not.
No,
it's not
not
kicking butt. I'm holding my own, but like, I don't know. I feel it. And I look around and everybody's playing Demon Hunter, right? They played Demon Hunter for the last 10 years. And I'm just like, okay, great. Wonderful. Demon Hunter's top again. One day Demon Hunter will be garbage and people will be like, man, imagine if Demon Hunter was good, right? Like, but right now,
dude, Demon Hunter
just has a really good toolkit for tanking. It just does. And
it's always going to be good.
So long as the survivability is there and the damage is there, it'll always kick butt. But with that said, though, I think Slappy Hands, Abomination Limb, as it's formerly called, I think A-Bomb Limb is really good for Blood DK for setting up unique pools that you can be like, oh, I'm going to run here, grab these mobs, and then cast Grippy Hands. Priory is a good example of that, where like a lot of those like archer type mobs, right? The guys with like the rifles or whatever that want to stand back. You can easily stack everything up. And granted, like Gorfine's Grasp does that too, but it's different. It's different with Grippy Hands, especially because of the offensive capabilities of it. It's a nice damage boost on blood during a big pull. It feels great. You're doing a lot. You're building up resources with it. And so I know people are going to say, well, just take Gorfine's Grasp now, which is fine. Gorfine's Grasp is fine. I use it all the time still, even with Grippy Hands. Yeah. But it's just like, It feels very I don't know, man. When I'm gonna be honest, when my raid leader reached out, I was like, yo, you want to play a healer next season instead? It was like, as I was like processing what it's gonna be like to play without Slappy Hands, and I was like, yeah, sure, I'll play a healer. Like literally, I was like,
yeah.
I'm like, dude, in my mind, I'm like, Blood DK already feels kind of rough in dungeons. Do I really want to like do it again, but now harder? No.
Yeah.
And who knows? Maybe do it again though. If maybe their tier set, sorry, I'm dying. Maybe their tier set is like Giga Chad, and all of a sudden Blood DK is now like the best tank of all time. That's possible. I'm not saying it's impossible, but we spent a lot of time in that conversation. All of which just to say, I don't like it. I don't like that they're removing it.
Now, if this is their way of taking away one air quote raid buff to add in a second, or like a realistic one, I think I would be okay with that.
Yeah, that'd be fine. But again, no, I don't even know, man. I don't even know. Even if they gave me a raid buff in exchange for it, I don't care about raid buff, dude. I want to be able to stack things while I'm tanking dungeons.
But I think just as like a general DK enthusiast, I just want a raid buff. And I think they added that blanket like 2% haste talent, which is like, okay, why the heck would I take this? And I think that will eventually I think it's going to eventually turn into hey, just give 2% haste to your raid.
Possibly.
We'll see.
I have seen people mention that. Glock says, why will Blood DK be meta next season? It probably won't. It definitely won't. Unless they make a tweak to the tier set and it's like giga broken. Not really. All right, Glock says, more serious question. If Demon Hunter gets a new spec, could 2 tank specs make sense? Priest has 2 healer specs, could work. It could. I think the question would have to be though, like, why? Right? And so right now to your question, I'm gonna say no. Unless it's brought to my attention that there's like a compelling tank style that would be really cool, right? That Demon Hunter and Demon Hunter only could represent. And right now I just don't know what that is, right? I think the current Demon Hunter tank does such a good job of like utilizing mobility and utilizing a lot of special like abilities to do some cool stuff that makes it feel very unique. So the question is like, what would make that special, right? Because you look at Priest, right? And both healer specs for Priest are like super, super like different, and so that
Oh
that
yeah,
kind of
they're
helps
very
make it work.
different.
So as of now, I'm gonna say I don't think it makes sense to me. It could happen. I don't see any reason why it necessarily can't happen. I'm just not convinced right now that there's a reason for it to happen.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think in general, like I think the struggle to make tank classes different across specs, it's not like they're not different. I think there is like a general struggle to make one where there's two tank specs for one class.
Yeah.
That feels kind of difficult. Like what? Like does one like heal themselves and you know like that kind of ask. Like I
Yeah.
already feel like how can you buff yourself or like heal yourself or do things like that
Yeah,
across
what makes
different
it
tank
super
specs.
super
You know what I
unique,
mean?
right? Yeah, and
Oh,
there's ways that you could maybe pull that off. You again though, I'm sure it would have to be something really creative and unique, right?
oh
The last
yeah.
tank we got was Demon Hunter. The tank before that was Brewmaster, right? And so both of those are pretty unique feeling tanks.
Yes.
Yeah. All right, new question coming in from but also tanking's a weird thing. Last thought on tank. Tanking's a weird thing because most tanks will just want to play whatever's meta regardless. So like
That's fair.
adding more tank
That's pretty true.
adding more tank specs doesn't necessarily make tank players happier, and it doesn't necessarily make more people play tank. It just kind of adds another possible meta, and whatever the meta is
Oh,
what
it's true.
tanks will end up playing.
That's pretty fair.
Yeah. To load asked a question. That's a new one. I haven't. Welcome to Discord. By the way, if anybody wants to ask their own questions to the podcast, you can do so by joining our Discord. There's a link in the description down below. I normally would say that before we start doing questions, but it's been like 2 weeks since we've recorded, so I'm out of the norm. But anyways, you can join our Discord, join the Pod Questions channel, and ask away. Our Patreon supporters do get priority though on podcast questions, so if we can't get to everybody, we do try to at least prioritize our Patreon supporters. How would you feel about a ranged tank that forces mobs to attack it from afar, but that reduce damage depending on their distance?
I mean, I'm a fan, but I know that Swag is like, nope, don't do that, please.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
it brings in struggles. I fully think if they ever add like some kind of like tinker class or something, it would make sense to kind of have like a tank class you like control via like robot or something. I don't know. I'm sure they can make it work, but like it does bring in like certain things, certain aspects that just make it a little harder to predict things. So
yeah, I'm not saying it's impossible, but there'd have to be a few specific things, right? Being someone who tanks a lot, you would need to have because there's a lot of movement and placement that occurs with tanking. So you would need to have a way that you are basically something's tanking, right? And in this concept, you're probably not actually the tank. You're probably telling whatever the real tank is what to do. Whether that real tank is a robot, whether that real tank is, let's say that's the Demon Hunter second tank spec, and they summon demons to go tank for him. I don't know, right? Probably not. But whatever it is, right? Maybe it's a totem that you put down that like gains the attention of a mob, and they have to go attack it. You have to have ways to quickly be able to move that around and pull movement, because otherwise, what happens is if it's like a true range tank, more like think like a hunter or something, or a mage or whatever, in that sense where you're really at range and you're holding aggro, but you're trying to keep them at bay the whole time. Getting good placement is going to be way too hard. The other issue that you're going to run into is like, how do you have a ranged tank but decentivize kiting, right? Because that's going to be a big deal too.
Yeah,
And how much
that's
space?
the biggest thing.
And how much space do you need, right? Like, what happens when you need to like stack everybody in a certain spot? What do you do as the tank? So I think it opens up a lot of questions that if Blizzard can answer those questions, could create something really cool. I'm just personally very skeptical that I don't think it will happen, because I'm just trying to think of the gameplay and like compelling gameplay that could make that actually like viable in a lot of different forms of content.
Yeah, Yeah, there's a lot of like logistical things that would have to come into
Yeah.
play.
Because think about trying
You
to
know what I
move
mean?
yourself and move something else simultaneously, constantly, right?
Right?
That
Yeah,
might
that'd be
not
kind
feel
of
great.
difficult.
Yeah, that might not feel. It might not be as fun gameplay as we think it is in our heads. Because I'm trying to think. First boss of Arakara, right? Like, there's a lot of stupid movement that you're doing there. Imagine like you're trying to think about where your feet are and where you're holding the mobs, which have to be different spots now. Um, that it's just
True.
I don't know if it'll be fun versus like a normal traditional tank where like where you're at is where the mobs are at, right? So where you go is where they go. Obviously, you
Yeah.
have some exceptions, right? Like the totem from Brewmaster and stuff like that. But even that's really meant to just be a way for you to gather aggro for mobs to come after you. Not really meant to be like an alternative tanking option. But next question coming in from Sean. What are some larger changes you would want all three endgame systems at midnight, raids, and plus and delves? Oh, wait, I read that weird. What are some larger changes you would want to all three endgame systems in midnight? So that's including raid, M plus, and 12s. What are some changes you think they can make M plus make it more appealing to delvers? Well, let's answer the first part of that question. What are some larger changes you would want to all three endgame systems in midnight? Um, ooh, I'm not 100% sure exactly what changes I would make. If I could, I would want, and we'll talk about this more in another question. I would want gear drops to be a little bit more exclusive than they currently are. I think heroic gear is too easy to get at the moment, and I think it floods the system. So that could be one. But otherwise, like I'm actually like this expansion, I'm really happy with a lot of stuff. Even in M plus, right? Like I think I would have said historically, I would have been like, "Yo, can we have new spawn points in M plus?" Like they suck. Like respawn spots suck, and they're doing it. Next season, we're getting new respawns. They're like redoing the whole respawn system in dungeons, which will be great. So I'm not sure. Maybe more raid bosses in raid. I feel like we don't have. I feel like we've been getting gypped on raid bosses. That's what I would change that for sure. What about you, Chicken?
I don't know if I have really any changes. I mean, it's kind of hard to make changes without like, I mean, without changing like the entirety of like the system. Like I said this in a podcast a couple weeks ago about how I think they should kind of just redo the affixes for M
Oh
plus.
yeah.
I don't know if that like fixes, or I don't know if that fixes. I don't know if that's what they need to do. I think maybe we need to come up with some better road for affixes. Delves, hot take. I don't think delves are going to get into midnight. Actually, I shouldn't say that because they probably will, but I don't know. Part of me thinks that they won't because player housing, I think, is going to be such a big thing that like delves I just don't know if they're going to have time for delves.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised right, if it's like the same player bases into both, and delves kind of get a back seat at that point.
Yeah, so like that might be a hot take that delves I don't even think delves are going to be in midnight.
I think they.
And maybe
I'm
we
pretty
can
confident
discuss
they
that at
will
some
be, though.
point.
I'm pretty confident they will be.
Yeah, I'm pretty confident too.
They're still building up the system, right? They're still constantly adding to it. They're doing the bountiful delves right now. They're encouraging us with the belt.
Yeah.
If they thought it was a failed system, the last thing they'd want to do is send us into failed content forcefully for a gear.
I mean, I wouldn't necessarily say that.
Yeah. And I will say, based on conversations I have with a lot of our listeners, I think there's a lot more people out there doing delves than I realized there are, or than I think.
Yeah, I definitely think delves. I think delves will be in midnight, but at the same time, if they weren't, I don't think I would necessarily be surprised.
Yeah, I could agree with that.
I don't think delves will make it. I think delves would probably end after the last Titan.
I think
I just don't.
Yeah, I think if dungeons disappeared or raid disappeared, I'd be like, what the heck? I don't think I'd have that same feeling about delves. But again, though, other people might. Like, right? Like, we probably have a lot of listeners like, yo, if delves get removed, I'm done. Like, I'm quitting this game.
Oh yeah. To be honest, I don't think delves, like I don't think they could change anything about delves other than
Oh,
like
you know
the
what I would
gear
change? You know what I would change
that
to
they
delves?
give.
I would make delves go up higher.
Oh, like more infinitely scaling kind of
Dude,
deal.
I think you could
That'd
probably
be kind
infinitely
of
scale delves. I think you could infinitely scale delves for sure. Yeah,
yeah, that'd be kind of cool.
or even just another 5 levels, or send them 4.
Yeah,
Maybe just 4.
that'd be kind of
Maybe
cool.
push them to 15. I don't know.
That'd be kind of
But
cool.
the second half of this question I think is more appealing to me. What are some changes you think they can make to M Plus make it more appealing to delvers? I know this is not the answer you're hoping for. The answer is nothing. The answer is I don't think there should be anything at all done to M Plus to make it more appealing to delvers. And I think that's a good thing.
I would agree with that.
Yeah, and I think that's a good thing, right? I think delves exist for the player who doesn't want to do M Plus, who doesn't like the idea of going into group content, of being in a challenge where your people are reliant on you to be aware of the content and respond appropriately to the content in a timely manner in that content. It's what makes M Plus very unique. And I know people are like, well, I miss the old dungeons. The old dungeons still exist. They're just, you know, you do it on like the M0 difficulty level, which is still hard. It's just not as hard as like, you know, plus 10. But the reason why I say there should be no changes made is because delves exist for the person who doesn't want to do M plus. So the more you try to make M plus appealing to delvers, you lose what makes M plus, right? So like, I'm trying to find like a good. Let's say you're like a burger shop, right? And you got
Where
like
are you going with
yeah,
this?
right. Like, and let's say you got like sides at your burger shop, right? And you have like burgers, but then they could have a side of fries, or they could have a side of like onion rings, right? It's like, okay, do you want fries or do you want onion rings? And there's a group, like a large group of their customers. Sorry, it's getting a little late for chicken eye, so brain's running slow. But there's a large group of their customers who like hate the onion fries. They just don't want them. They're like, I don't want onion fries or onion rings. I mean, I don't want onion rings. I'm just gonna eat the normal fries. I just want the normal fries, right? And let's say the normal fries come with like a generic like seasoning salt on them, right? Like a little seasoning salt on them. And so the owner goes, oh, you know what? Like people aren't eating enough of our onion ring, or people are eating our onion rings, but not everybody, right? Some people are still choosing the fries and not the onion rings. And so they go, okay, we're going to put our seasoning salt now on the onion rings, right? Because the people who eat the fries with the seasoning salt, right? Listen to me out, right? Hear me out. The people eating the fries aren't going to turn around and be like, oh wow, they put the seasoning salt on the onion rings. Let me go get onion rings instead. No, right? Like you're not getting the onion ring for the seasoning, and you're not getting the fry for the seasoning. If you like fries, you like fries. If you like onion rings, you like onion rings, and you're not gonna just. And so I think the problem is what would happen is they would make M plus less appealing to M plus players, and I don't think they would make it more appealing to people who run delves.
That was a very long-winded analogy.
Yes, but it got my point across.
Yeah, it did.
Right? Yeah. WoW offers you multiple options, right? You find the one that you enjoy, or find multiple things that you enjoy, right? You might be eclectic. You might be like, yo, I love delves, and I love PvP, and I love battlegrounds, and I love raiding, right? I love mount farming.
Yeah.
You find the things that you love and just do those. If you want to try M plus, you're more than welcome to try M plus out with us. We'll teach you. We'll teach you M plus. But remember, you know, M plus, people are relying on you. People are expecting you to perform well, and more so than raid, because in raid you can kind of hide behind numbers, right? You can kind of be like, oh, well, we have 20 people, and so if I don't do the best, well, at least other people can make up for it. It's harder to make up for somebody in M plus. I think sometimes it can be nerve-wracking, but it can be really fun too. It can be really fun. So I wouldn't change anything, because any changes I would make to make it more appealing to people who like running delves would make it less appealing to people who like running M plus.
That's pretty fair.
Yeah. Do you have any thoughts on that, or do you want to move on to the next question? We got 2 more questions to go.
Yeah, I don't really have anything. I mean, I agree with everything you said.
Perfect.
To be honest.
All right, here's a question coming in from Vlan. And he said, at equivalent difficulty scaling, which is more challenging, Mythic Plus or Raid in Season 2, and why? What do you think is harder, Mythic Plus or Raid, at, like, equivalent difficulty scalings?
Yeah, so this one, Not gonna lie, I thought about this one a fair amount.
I did too.
And every angle I went at just like did not support the thing that I was thinking. So like I went at a couple angles. I was like, okay, well, pug friendly, group friendly, and then I just kind of went from there.
Yeah.
And I think basically what I kind of boiled it down to, there's two kind of things. One, and I think I don't remember where it was said, and I don't know if I think Valen, or how, I'm not even sure how you say it.
Bland.
That's what it is. Sorry, it's late, like Swag said. I think he kind of answered his question where he was like, well, actually, no, I think this is the opposite.
So what do you think?
Because he was kind of mentioning that he thinks that people do Mythic Plus 12s and up could get into raiding Heroic and Mythic, but not the other way around. Or he didn't say the other way around. He just said he thinks it would be easier for players who mainly only do Mythic that could get into Heroic. I actually think it's the opposite. I think most of your people that are doing raiding are also doing Mythic because they need the gear and that kind of aspect, where I think people that do Mythic Plus are a little more just like, hey, I'm cool with just doing Mythic Plus. I mean, that's a a big throw at me last season, but everything that I kind of boiled down was basically to the timer. There's one key difference between the two that sets them apart, and it's the timer. And I think that's why I would say Mythic Plus is more challenging.
Yeah, I mean, it depends too, right? Because then you look at like a lot of these guilds out there, right, that are pulling a boss 150 times to try and kill that one boss, right? And how many times are you pulling your +10 dungeon, right? trying to complete that, right? Probably one time. Maybe doing like 2 or 3 tens before you get your first one timed or something.
I mean, Mythic Plus, there's a clear pass or fail, right? With Raid, there isn't. I mean, like you said, I mean, Mythic Plus or a Mythic Raid group could literally be pulling bosses hundreds of times. They're not necessarily failing. They're not succeeding yet, but I wouldn't necessarily call them failing, right?
Yeah, and it's such it's such a hard question though, too, because like, again, I would say spending, right? I would say spending the amount of hours trying to get that one boss down compared to the amount of hours trying to get a dungeon done. Like definitely Raid would look harder, right? Raid would look harder for sure. I think what's hard too, like, is when they say compared to like equivalent, difficulty scaling, because what does that even mean, right? And so when I say when I think equivalent difficulty scaling, I'm actually gonna base it off of something you don't think I would base it off of. I'm going to base it off the drops, the rewards from that content.
No, that makes sense.
Right. So if we look at the rewards for that content, right? So let's say normal raid isn't even on. Normal raid doesn't even compare, right? You can't have normal raid in the conversation because normal raid only drops normal gear, and in the vault only gives normal gear. Whereas the lowest M plus option, a 2, currently gives you heroic gear in the vault. Or hero gear in the vault. So
yeah, which is nuts.
Twos are technically going to be considered more difficult content based on the gear that you're getting, right, than a normal raid would. But then at the same time, it's kind of hard because is it 6s? Do 6s drop hero gear now in the dungeon itself?
I believe so, yes.
Right. So 6 would drop hero gear in the dungeon and drop hero gear in your vault. So the question then you have to ask is 2, and also they're not dropping gilded crests, right? So 2 to 6, is that range equivalent to heroic rating, right? The whole heroic, not just the final boss, but the whole progression of heroic rating. Is that equivalent? 2 to 6, is that equivalent to heroic rating? It's hit or miss. It's hit or
It's
miss.
kind of hard to say.
I would say, if I was being honest, week 1 of a season, I'm doing 6s. Week 1 of a season, I'm not clearing heroic.
No, that's pretty fair.
So based on my personal experience and what I know I can pull off right away. Now, granted, raid is also dependent upon the people I'm raiding with. But most of them are pretty on point with my skill level. Many surpass me in skill level. And some are under me in skill level, right? So I would say it's pretty neutral. It's pretty neutral. And again, I'm doing, right? Like I know I'm running 6s for sure week 1 of a season. I'm probably trying to push up to 8s if I possibly can, but I'm running 6s for sure week 1 of a season. I'm not completing raid week 1 of a season. So that to me kind of tells me that I think in some capacity M+ is harder. Here's my second point. Here's my second point we make. Chicken, I actually think you're wrong on what you said about people will do M+ but not raid, but they'll raid and not do M+, right? Or whatever. What I found from personal experience of raid leading for our guild, being a backup raid leader for our guild, kind of tracking what our raiders are doing and what our raiders are enjoying or not enjoying. One of the hardest things that I've had to deal with our raid team is encouraging people to do M+ content during the week to prepare for raid. Right? So to get gear, to get ready, to whatever. Dude, we're getting AOTC with raiders in our team who are absolutely refusing to even do like 2s.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, though, like as of right now, as of this moment right now, you know, there is no technical requirement of key completion for our raid team. So they're not breaking any rules. They're not going against any decisions made by the guild. But they are actively saying, "Hey, I'll do raid content. I won't do M+ content." Or I know many who are like do very minimal, very minimal M+ content, and will raid with us.
No, that's frustrating, of course.
So for some reason, raid is way less scary, I think, than M+ for people. Whether it's the timer, whether it's, again, a higher level of expectation, because now if you mess up, it's more apparent that it's you when there's less people, right? You can kind of get carried a little bit easier in a raid. You're more invisible in a raid.
Sure.
You're much more visible in M+, so there's a little anxiety with that. All that to say, if I had to say one or the other, I would currently I would say it's pretty balanced, but I think M+ might be scarier.
Yeah, I
think M+ is easier but scarier.
Oh, I don't think it's easier.
I think M+, yeah, but also, again, like, what are we scaling up to, right? Mythic raid, right, to plus 12? Because, again, M+ is infinitely scaling content, right?
Yeah, so it's kind of hard to put like an actual like pin on it, right?
Yeah, right. Like at what point are you like? Because obviously, if we're talking about infinitely scaling, then M+ for sure would be harder. But
I would. Yeah. How I would kind of base it on what people are running equivalent, right? So like, I think of like X in our guild, or in our guild, in the Discord. He's been on the podcast, I think, twice at this point.
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. He's cutting edge raider. He's definitely done mythic raiding. I would kind of compare what his level of M+ is to that level of raid. So like, I think he's running like 15, 16s, right?
Yeah, but I know a bunch of cutting edge raiders who are just running 12s.
Yeah, but are they running 12s because that's what they want to run, or are they running 12s because that's what they feel difficulty-wise they can run?
They're just choosing to run 12s. They got cutting edge. They're doing 12s. Yeah. So again, I don't know. I don't know what the total answer is, right? To me, a 12 is the equivalent to mythic rating.
Really?
Yeah, I think once you go above 12, I think you're starting, maybe 13, but I think past that, you're starting to step out. It also depends, like, are we talking end of season mythic raid, or are we talking beginning of season mythic raid? Right, those are different things. But we got to move on because we're running out of time. Do you mind if I just answer this last question real quick?
Sure, I didn't even read it.
Perfect question from Draga. I think it's a swag question for sure. Question from Draga. I've heard it mentioned multiple times on the podcast that delves make it too easy to get heroic gear. However, a tier 8 bountiful delve, which is first level to give heroic vault, gives equivalent gear/vault to a +2 dungeon. Having played both of these extensively, I don't feel that there is much of a difficulty difference between the two. What exactly do you mean when you say that delves make getting hero gear too easy? Yes, I can absolutely explain it. It'll be pretty quick in my explanation. You are correct. A +8, sorry, I'm coughing. Or an 8 delve to a +2 dungeon isn't too crazy difficult or too crazy different. But my argument is actually that I think, and again, my argument is not just based on this season. My argument is based on the last handful of seasons, right? So my argument is actually that a +2 dungeon is too low to be getting heroic gear. I don't think you should be getting hero vault slots from a +2, right? I think it should be harder than a +2, and that's where that's why the delve thing bothers me, because prior to delves that was the case, and then when delves came in, the gear in delves was so good for the difficulty of delves, because they were easier content, but the reward was really good. That then this season they ended up lowering M+ content, and so now all of a sudden M+ content is giving similar difficulty level rewards as delves. Rather than raising up the expectation of delves, they lowered the expectation of M+, and that's what bothered me. That's what bothers me. I actually think they should have equivalent reward, right? I think all difficulty levels in the game should give equivalent reward, but I think the reward should be equivalent to the difficulty that you're doing. And I don't think, again, every M+ dungeon up to a 10 is giving you like hero in the vault. A lot's giving you hero right at the end. I don't think a +2 is a hero track worthy gear. I don't. In my opinion, that's probably starting at the +6 level. That's probably a +6 dungeon, not a +2.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where my problem is. And that's why I say even with delves, I would, if I can make one change as we answer your question, I'd probably bump the upper end of delves up to a 15 rather than 11. And maybe that, right, kind of push back some of the gear tracking in delves. So that, hey, like, look, if you want hero gear, if they push up to a 15 and decide, you know what, like, fine, if you do a +15 delve, you can have a myth track slot item in the vault. Cool with me. Cool beans, right? Like that feels like an appropriate difficulty level, for sure. Maybe slap a timer on it too, though, just to make it a little more challenging.
Yeah.
If you're going and making a cup of coffee in the middle of your myth track content, maybe maybe it's not that difficult. Right? I don't know. That's more of a joke than anything else. Don't take that too serious. They can do however they want. But all I'm saying is I do think delves actually overall lowered the gear reward from content. I don't think a +2 is on track, as the conversation we just had with the previous question. I don't think a +2 dungeon is on track with heroic rating. I don't. Right? Like if I look at our raid team and we're doing heroic and I just see them running 2s, I'd be like, dude, what are you guys doing? What are you guys doing? Like, get into like 6s, push 8s, right?
Some 10s.
Yeah, try to get 10s. Like, try to get myth track here if you can. Now, granted, that's maybe overachieving for a heroic AOTC, but definitely be pushing like 8s, right? Make sure you're getting gilded. Make sure you're getting gilded crest so that you can upgrade the hero gear that you're getting from the raid if you don't want to push for myth track gear. And so that's kind of my conversation piece. Is again, it's hard to say because what it plays in that last question, but ultimately all that to say, I'm dragging on the question, I'm over explaining. In a nutshell, I don't think +2 M+ should give her hero track gear. I don't think an 8 bountiful delve should give hero track gear. I think that should both be pushed up higher.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Yep. That's all. That's all I got on that one. Everyone, thank you so much for listening to the Warband. Chicken and I are so excited to be back, recording with everybody. And if you want to help support our content, please check out our Patreon. There's a link in the description. You can support us and get bonus content, get extra episodes during the week. We even have the option to listen to a live recording of the podcast once a month in our Discord, which is really exciting. And if you want to join our Discord, either way, there's a link in the description for that. And lastly, we know that there are a lot of players out there looking for people to game with, looking for people to play with. You hear us talk about our guild all the time. We love our guild. It's called Astra. If you're ever curious about finding a guild or looking for a guild that is non-toxic, that is supportive of players, that wants to help you get into content that maybe previously you've been a little too nervous to try out on your own, you're more than welcome to join our guild. You can find the link to our Warband Discord, not the guild Discord, but our Warband Discord in the description below. And when you join our Discord, we have a few guild members in there who can help get you plugged in with our guild or answer any questions you have about our guild. But that is everything we have on the docket to talk about today. But I believe there's going to be a lot more to discuss next week as we continue to get more news about 11.2. Chick and I will see you soon.
Yeah, buddy.